Hello and welcome to Hide and Seek. And today's episode is Your 3-year-old is Still in Charge. So during these conversations of hide and seek, it's a raw and honest exploration of how societal conditioning has taught many of us to swallow our words and dim our light. Each episode weaves together personal stories of transformation, examining how childhood messages like don't rock the boat, keep the peace, and be seen, not heard, create adults who struggle to voice their needs, dreams, and dissent, and who we are. But this isn't just about identifying the problem. We celebrate the profound shifts that occur when people finally give themselves permission to speak up, have deeper relationships, stronger boundaries, more fulfilling careers, and a sense of alignment with their core values. So today, I'm choosing this topic, this title, because I've spent the last week with my 2-year-old grandson who has a 3-year-old brother who also has this week his stepbrother, who's 10. So there's a lot happening in the house, and he's really acting out. He's been like a 2-year-old tantrum every minute you say no, or every time everybody else goes up the stairs, but the gate gets closed on him, or every time people go outside to like cut the grass and they don't want to deal with a 2-year-old. They just want to get it done. And he sees that door slamming on him over and over again. And he's not talking. He can't express himself. The only way he expresses himself is by having a huge screaming match. And his mom's busy, right? So he doesn't always get on her lap. And I'm realizing as I'm watching this is when it forms. So the other two ladies, Sunshine, Alana, we all work on helping adults heal and release the patterns that aren't working for us, right? But all these habits and patterns that we learned and we've been conditioned to be who we are at this young, tender age of 2, 3, who creates beliefs that there's always somebody else important, or there's always somebody else who needs the attention or who gets the attention. So I'd love to explore, because this is the tender age of when my grandson, the 2-year-old, is forming beliefs about himself, that he comes last. The older stepson, mom doesn't get to see him that much. So he's more important. He's more special. And of course, you've got an infant who needs to be fed. So I would love your thoughts and your ways of helping your clients shift. And like, first, we have to become aware of that this is happening, right? I'm seeing it in the forefront of when it first starts. So let's start this conversation of what is it stirring in you? So who would like to go first? Alana, let's go with you.
Hey everyone, what's stirring? I I know how much the beliefs are so powerful, and so here is this unconscious, right, in this 2-year-old that is just absorbing everything, and it's this absorption. There's no rational mind there that doesn't come online until it's more like age 7 or 8, and so it's like we're just absorbing, and your grandson is just absorbing, he's just watching, right? And now he's also energetically though formulating some pieces too. And I think a lot of times we don't look at the energy, we don't realize we're all so intuitive that we can't even articulate even at 2, because at 2 we actually are still really connected to God and source and all of these other factors, all these energy pieces where we see what's going on and we know it. You know, he can feel it, he can smell it or taste it or hear it or whatever his heightened energies are. And yet he's in this little tiny body that is placed in all these different experiences, lots of experiences. Like you just laid out, that's a lot. Like we forget because we're adults and we're so far disconnected from when we first came onto the planet and just how overstimulated things can be.
Mhm.
And then that overstimulation carries into our adulthood. And then, the subconscious absorbing all of this. This is how we react when we're older. We don't know why, wow, this is so overwhelming that the door slammed and I'm by myself and I feel alone and all these things come into play. So it's really interesting because yes, the beliefs are formulating in this subconscious mind that are going to create the pathways for how we react rather than respond or how we behave in the future. And then as the adult, we actually react from that 2-year-old space, right? Like it's my 2-year-old that's screaming at you right now. It's not really me, but the
Yeah.
2-year-old didn't feel seen and heard or get that hug or sit on mom's lap, like you mentioned. And so all of a sudden, that's what we're actually longing for or desiring when we're older and we don't realize it. And then we beat ourselves up because we should be, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh my gosh, I love this conversation because there's just already so much to unpack.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. How about you, Miss Sunshine? I know you have a lot of info.
Oh, yes, lots to say. And what is really sticking out for me, just there's positions in family too, right? So your
Mm.
grandson is that I never say like the middle, but that like in that position, that's what he chose to come in for. So that is just a completely different thing. He doesn't want any kind of conflict, right? He wants to make peace with everybody. He's absorbing, taking in everybody's feelings and transmuting them. So there's a lot more on different dimensions that is happening. But age two, right? And when we're young, as soon as we come out of out of the birth canal, we are getting conditioned, right? So at age two, we're learning the language because we don't know language, but we can't communicate language yet. So there's a lot of feelings and of course temper tantrums because we can't get it out. We're feeling things more than what we're understanding words are. So it's really hard to speak. And it's very interesting on being able to connect that as an adult connect back to places of us that need to be healed because we weren't feeling a certain way or we didn't get that love that we thought is the way we would get love. And we can't put the pieces together until we do that inner work and we start understanding all of that. Um, and to kids too, not necessarily, well, at this age that we're talking about, the world revolves around them. So if something isn't going their way, it's their fault, right? That's done
Mhm.
consciously and unconsciously and done for many years, right? So there's all that occurring too. So that is part of the programming. And you know what? The funny thing is, like you say, Jacqueline, all we need is that awareness. All we need is that acceptance that, whew, yeah. And it takes 15 to 25 minutes to heal that inner child. And it's absolutely beautiful. I have a couple of examples that I've personally had happen in the last days that really fit into what we're speaking about today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it brings up a thing. So I have heard that there's even some parenting styles today that they don't say the word no to their children. I don't know how that's possible. In order to keep my grandson safe, I'd have to like say no because they just keep going back over. If they want to put their finger in an electric plug, they're obsessed with it until they're able to do it, right? But we have to keep them safe. So how do you not have them do that without saying no? You're trying to redirect them. But let's face it, sometimes when a kid gets that idea, they're not going to stop. All they want is that because it got a reaction out of you. So I want that even more. And so what I started was like, it's like training an animal. I hate to say it, right? but we're training to keep them safe. We just have to keep them alive for one more day, right? So it's like slapping your hands really hard when they go near something, right? Just to draw them away and kind of break that pathway. But what are your thoughts on saying no? Because some
Well,
people, yeah, go.
The twins are 11 now, and we worked on this when they were little.
You're younger mom, so please share some insights. Yeah, I'm older.
And again, because I know that the subconscious actually does whatever, it doesn't know negative. So whenever you say don't touch this, all the subconscious hears is touch this. And the child hears touch this. So saying no, saying don't, as much as and it's just interesting because again, it's not easy. Why? Because we're programmed this way, and it's our conditioned automatic response. And so just like you're saying, like clapping your hands, doing anything different is already actually helping us to pattern interrupt. But now you're helping the child to focus and direct them where you want them to go, which we don't do in the world. And so it could be as much as like, don't do that, or no, they get excited. And so it becomes, how do I change the game? How do I play fun and be like, hey, and hey, and even, but again, it can become another pattern. And this is, I mean, now I'm going into a whole rabbit hole of like why
They're
I
all
don't,
still patterns,
it's still
right? It's
habits.
just what habit and pattern do we want to instill in them? Yeah.
Because if I constantly say, hey, and there's that energy, because again, it's about the energy beneath it. So it's like, what is that intention? What is that frequency? And the child's hearing like, ooh, I'm getting in trouble. I shouldn't do this. Or, ooh, this is kind of fun. So how do we play fun back? So it's like, whether it's like sneaking up on them and tickling them and grabbing them and taking them somewhere else, or this is why it's like we have the plug holders, and you do certain things that you can, but you're constantly redirecting. So here's the shiny ball over here. Ooh, is this fun? And like now you're playing. And again, to me, like this is what we suck at as adults.
We do. We
Because
really do.
you already painted the picture that dad's going out to cut the grass, which nobody wants to do. It's a have to do. And then you've got mom who's like, I'm busy. I got to go do this. All because why? We can't deal with the child. We don't have the time and energy, but we don't know how to play. We don't know how to be a kid. And so it becomes, how can we make it fun to distract? And it's, I mean, I'm starting to realize like this sounds all well and good, and this is all just to prevent no. But at some point, this is how we also get conditioned to be distracted most of our life too. So it's like, oh gosh, if I'm constantly distracting you from your truth is I am curious. So the other side of playing with it is allowing them the choice.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me, Sunshine?
Okay.
Yeah? You can't hear me still?
Can you?
I can hear you.
Am I frozen?
I don't know.
No, you're not frozen.
Can I hear you, Sunshine?
I can hear. Yeah, I don't know. I can hear Alana though.
I can hear everyone.
Now I can hear both of you.
Okay. Well, then that's the energy or the power of this. But here's the thing, when my kids were younger, it became what is okay. And so whether you kind of safety proof things, but you also are giving them the opportunity to be curious within reason. And to me, this starts to get when you're older, when you don't have the flexibility to go do the thing that you want to try or check out or play in, usually there's some parent telling you, no, you can't do it. So for example, it's kind of like if my kid wants to play with fire, we're immediately like, nope, you don't get to do that. But what if I created a safe scientific kind of experiment thing that you only get to play with the fire, and you've got your metal bowl, or you're just going to light this thing here. I'm allowing you to be in that creative, curious place, but I'm also putting in the parameters or the boundaries to say, this is what I'm okay with. Hunter he wanted to everything was a drum for him. So it's like, it's not a no. No, you can't just keep taking pens away or anything, a stick, anything you'd find, everything, right? But then it was also like, okay, well, we can also give you a hammer and a nail, and here's this big stump that you can go pound away.
Yeah.
And that might seem crazy, like, oh no, what if your child hits their thumb? It's their journey. They're here to learn the way they're here to learn. They're going to do what they're going to do. And if
Yeah.
you can at least have the awareness to create the safety, create where you're not
Yes.
telling them no, because you're actually already limiting their potential.
Yeah.
Now, if he does hurt himself, I mean, yeah, I guess he could have nailed his thumb, but here's the reality: when we also trust that our children are brilliant and
Yes.
they can do so much more. I mean,
Yeah.
my kids went to Montessori. Montessori is very much like the kid is capable. And
Yeah.
so our kids were, we got safer knives that were more like the plastic, but they
Yeah.
were cutting their own bananas and cutting their
Mm.
own cucumbers at 2 years old. And so again, it's this level of, you could say, oh my God, like you're crazy, or you weren't very safe. But the
Yeah.
reality is, no, we were within reason, but we were also going to allow the child to be fully capable to
Yeah.
make their own lunches and clean up their own messes, or, the spilled milk or whatever it may be, instead of getting mad about it and telling them, no, you shouldn't have done that. It's, where's the rag? And you start asking questions. And then
Mm.
it can even be, instead of saying no, is that what you should be doing right now? And then
Yeah.
as they get older and they can communicate, is this a good choice? You're
Yeah.
not saying it's either right or wrong or good or bad, because really there isn't any
Mhm.
of that. We just perceive it that way because of our systems. But anyway.
I love it. Absolutely. And we're a golfing family. So his mom gave him this cute little golf set. Um, but of course, swinging a golf club and, in the house with the infant around and a dog and like, oh. But letting them explore. When my kids were young, I had my older son. We talk about human design. He was a manifesting generator, just like this little guy is. So they're busy. So I'm like, okay, I'm washing dishes. Let's pull up a chair. Yes, we're going to get water everywhere, but I'm going to show you how to be a human that takes care of himself. And thank God I did that, because he cooks, he cleans, he does all that. And now I'm trying to instill that in his son, right? That's why my son, his father, is a great human being, a great husband and partner, because he does all these things. So I love it, absolutely, and thank you for all of that insight. So I'm gonna practice that.
It's going to stretch you. It's going to help you grow in so many ways, right? Like, this is where I always look at, as much as we think we're the parent who is here to impart our wisdom and teach our child.
They're teaching us.
Totally. All
I
the time.
always
Oh.
said that. Always said my kids taught me how to parent them, because there's no books on this stuff, right? And they're totally different.
Yeah.
So
And they're triggering us,
Yeah.
which they're mirroring our own 2-year-old that's coming
Yes.
out.
Yes, and that's the other thing I wanted to say, was that the mom has a lot going on, and I know she's in her head, right? Like, there's so much up here. And what I learned from my kids is that the more I clear my inner thoughts, the more they settle down. But when I was crazy and heightened and frustrated, they're acting it out for us. So I know that that's part of what's happening. So, sunshine, words of wisdom.
Yes, how it's all interconnected. And Alana, I love that you have twins and you have one that's older too. But I always desired twins, but I got Irish twins because they came like months apart, right? And I always found that, so I have three altogether, but I always found that what one head didn't think of, the other one was doing, right? So I honor and respect you, because it was a lot of fun.
They
And
tag teamed.
They
Like
do.
there were
Yes.
two brains masterminding to
Yeah.
move a stool over and
Mhm.
one climb over this, or like, you know.
Mhm.
And when one
And
was
Jack,
bad and stopped, the other one took over, right? I'm like, oh my God,
yeah,
where's
and you have
Calgon?
that with your grandbabies too. Yes, but they are our kids are our biggest teacher. I remember like people before we had kids, making statements and saying this and that, but you can't know until you do have kids, right? And it's for the rest of your life, and they're constantly teaching you. You might notice that one teaches you more than the other, and then it happens too with grandbabies, right? So another thing that I was thinking of is my grandson is 2. And he's just recently gone through a stage of no, right? Everything is no because he hears it so often. So
Yes.
he says it no matter what, right? No, 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 no. So yeah, I don't even believe in language. And even if the child is not hearing the word necessarily no, they're feeling that vibration and frequency and energy
Yes.
of it, right? It
Yeah.
gets very, very confusing because, we can be thinking one thing and then acting another thing, and the child can feel that confusion
Yeah.
because they're tapping into the energy. So if we're talking about language and no, I think it's important that's not all that they can hear at all times.
Mm.
I love what Alana was talking about and sharing. And I also believe that a no can feel very good too, right? So they have to learn that at the same, kind of thing. There's just so much going on. And when it comes to certain things, I think parents can get triggered, right? Grandparents can get triggered, and
Oh
we're
yeah.
getting triggered, opportunity to heal, right? So everything that's around us is giving an opportunity to heal, which healing just means moving forward, realizing, hey, there's a piece of me that's like out there and kind of lingering, taking up my energy that I don't consciously have awareness of. But let's do some stuff around it. So, and we get so caught up in just our physical body, our physical communication, seeing what's going on. But I'm always reminding people, there's that soul level, right? We all have the soul's doing it, the soul has all the wisdom. And if we just connect that way, we can go in and with our grandbaby on a soul to soul level and speak to them, right? And help them understand and not personalize it. And um, that is even more effective than doing the physical, like what we get caught up in. So
Yeah.
give you an example. I was at an event on the weekend. I can't remember all details, but it was somebody that wasn't seeing their children. And we've all been through it to a certain degree, right? And I just went in and did some work, kind of thing of him solely reaching those children, talking to them individually, and you could feel the amazing shift. You could feel, that connection. There's no words for the gratitude for what he experienced, right? So we get so caught up in this physical,
Priceless.
and there's just so much
Oh yeah.
more, right? The emotional,
Oh,
mental,
absolutely.
spiritual. And I share that's because that's how I work, right? On those levels mostly. So yeah. So we can always go in and, explain why, right? That, mama's really busy right now, or because they personalize, right? My
Yeah.
grandbaby is with his mom that's a single mom, and I can talk to her physically about, well, he's taken on all this stuff, right? Like he's listening, he's taking in, but some people might not understand that. Um, but I can go in, I can't change something for somebody, but I can go in and talk to him on a different dimension, a different time. And,
Yeah.
and I understand too, it's part of his journey. So yeah, no is something that we hear so often. And, when the little ones start saying no to everything, come on, eat your thing, eat this, or come on, we're going, open the door, we're going, and you're getting no's all the time. It's the same, it's like they're reflecting on how they feel with a nose, right? Same thing, they're giving it right back to us, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
echoes of no's. Mm.
Yeah, and we're constantly being triggered, right? We're so many people think, like I work a lot with physical pain, but to get out of physical pain, you have to look at the energies, you have to look at the emotions. Nothing is just physical, right? So, how can we? So, let's talk about, because we work with more of adults, right? Unfortunately, there's there's 8 billion people on the planet, right? I would say a good percentage of those people are still acting and getting triggered by those things that happened when they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, right? Because we are always conditioned and raised, whatever, however we were raised, we took on those habits and patterns, and we created beliefs which are creating our lives. And how many people actually do personal development work to change? Personal development work, healing, is all about changing our habits and patterns that no longer serve us, right? To stop the triggering, to become so neutral that we can just magnetize what we want and really start creating the life we dream of. So, what if we move into talking about first, we need awareness that we're even being triggered by that inner child, right? Can you both share some ways that your clients get triggered, or even ourselves, right?
I have, yeah, I have an incident that happened just recently, that fits right into this. And so we can be triggered even as like children, as teenagers, as adults, right? So I'll give you a prime example. My second daughter's, so she's the one in between in the family, and she has a certain personality, to deal with everything that maneuvers around her. So her, like the kid's father and I aren't together anymore. And her graduation was coming up. And it was really special for her to have her parents there, right? I'm open to communicating with her dad, but he's not like that towards me. So, but it's hundreds and it's thousands of people, right? Like very big, very busy, very crowded. And then I had my other daughter who chose not to have me at her graduation for whatever time in her life, right? So, but I wanted to speak to her about it. I desired to speak to her because I knew it would be a trigger. So I just mentioned, hey, it's a busy week. I have a retreat going on and everything. We're kind of talking, and I put it in there. Right away, she's triggered, right? Well, the person that she was just triggered and stirred the pot, right? Stirred the pot in the family, grand celebration, and that's something that she's did. So, reached out to her sister, did different things. And I know it's like energy that I don't have to use in that kind of behavior kind of thing if she's not seeing the trigger. But it went into, but you guys can get together for that, but you're not able to get together for, the baby reveal or the first birthday party. Again, I wasn't invited to that, right? We did something separate, and that was her thing, right? She had a muffin made that I drove an hour to get, a cupcake or whatever, to drive an hour away to get it to see what the reveal was. I was told to do that, right? So she's triggering, I wasn't at the graduation, I wasn't at the baby reveal, but I wasn't allowed, and it was unspoken, right? She chose her father, right? Same with the first birthday party, right? Obviously, I had stuff for my grandbaby, like celebrations the way we did it, but we weren't invited. So she was getting triggered by those choices that she made, right? So that's an example of a grown adult, right? Almost 30. This grand celebrations happening with a sibling, and there's triggers, right? Back to graduation, back to, so what do you do? Do you feed it at that time, or do you just allow her to process, right? And do all this stuff, right? Because she's not able to, but she's doing all this stuff and stirring the pot. So you just wait till everything calms down and you can have that conversation. So
Yeah.
I waited. She called a few times and I just, nope. And finally took the call again yesterday and she started right into it. But then was more open to hearing about the triggers, right? So that's a grand example of exactly what we're talking about, but it has to do with choices, right? Other choices as an adult. But we tend to not take responsibility and blame others, right? And kick and scream. And it's like a toddler thing when it happens. And it's just because of that hurt inside, right?
Mm.
Of maybe the choices that we've made, or the hurt maybe that they're far away and they can't attend themselves, right? Just different things. And
Yeah.
what is triggering me? What do I have to heal? What is shown to me, kind of thing. So that's an example that just recently happened in days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you bring up a really good point. So there's adult tantrums, right? Which become drama, which become,
Mhm.
and they're feeling it and they're not sure, we're not sure how, what we're feeling, right? But either we cry or either we get upset with somebody, or if we escalate it and really go down that downward spiral, we're going to create a whole scene and a story around it and gather people to be on our side, right? Like, she did this to me, she's wrong, I'm right, this is why I'm like, it could become this whole thing. But the more we decompress and don't keep feeding it, we become neutral, the faster, hopefully, that will dissipate, with the goal in mind that at some point you're doing enough healing, enough releasing of these triggers so that it doesn't happen anymore. And I think that's the secret. That's the secret sauce. The beauty of doing personal development work is that I'm neutral. I'm no longer the drama queen or jumping into somebody else's drama queen. I can just have fun in life and think of my desires instead of fighting a battle or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
that's the sweet spot, right? That's the thing that has the bliss and the journey and the higher consciousness that, it's the juicy climax part of something when other things are going and you're understanding and remaining
yeah,
in yourself and not becoming not yourself because of
yeah,
somebody else, triggering off. So
not jumping
it
in
is
there.
very beautiful, like you're saying, like that you can just remain centered and in yourself and feel whatever feelings it's bringing up, and you're not caught up in it. That's just such a waste of energy, right? And life
It's
force to,
yeah, waste of
and
time.
it doesn't feel, it may not feel good to be like vomited on and like diarrhea and shit at the time, but if you can be, it's not a matter of taking it, it's a matter of, okay, what is this really showing, what is really transpiring, what shall I do at this point? It was very interesting. I was in a channeling thing early this morning when we do in class, and it was shared with me through spirit, through somebody else, that whew, your throat didn't say anything, like you closed off your throat, which is very odd for me. But that just recently happened, right? I wasn't doing any of this. Like there was no sense of doing it. So yes, when it was affecting other people or other family members, yeah, I had my moments where it was like, oh my God, this is such, like, why is this, to see other people upset and crying about it when it should be their celebration, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. Hmm. But it
Your
all works
thoughts?
out.
It does. Your thoughts, Alana?
Well, kudos to you, Sunshine, because you just gave an example of someone else being triggered by you, but like you're in the neutral place. You're able to say, I wasn't invited. And that could be very triggering for you to,
Mm.
and when we can get to a place where we can talk about it and we're here and we're present and we're sharing it, we're not triggered anymore. But if I start giving you an example and I'm still crying and I am working myself up right now, I'm still triggered. I didn't heal it. And I think that's really powerful
Mhm.
because, especially if we're an adult that is so used to living in the story and then retelling the story over and over and over. And it's just like any traumatic piece. It happened one time. You had this perpetrator that harmed you one time, but you do greater harm by reliving it over and over and over and over and
Right.
never letting
Becoming
it
it.
go. Yes. And then
Yeah.
it literally rewrites you, and that story becomes the belief. So
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned it before, but I'm gonna, drop our energy medicine solution book, because the chapter I wrote about, if you want to hear when I was really triggered, had a rage moment, go check out my Quiet the Mind chapter, because I wasn't present. And for me
Mhm.
personally,
Mm.
as I get older and older, I'm starting to really see that I feel the energy, but more and more I have the ability to articulate. So just like
Yeah.
your grandson might not be able to articulate what he was feeling, but if this continues, and it may, because it might be his journey to learn, at some point he's going to start to realize, where were the energies, like maybe the energies were always like avoiding him, and maybe he
Mhm.
was too big and he became like he was trying to grab on and be the leech
Mm.
or cord, and just take. And so I
Yeah.
have people in my life like that. I feel like my mom can be that way, where the energy is just more, it's needy. It just wants something.
Yes.
I learned to
Yes.
go into the mountain. I learned to go down into the earth. I learned to hide. So
Mm.
here I am, like,
Mm.
okay, but just like you said, Sunshine, you're learning not to have it come out. I'm the opposite. I'm learning to let it come out, which in that chapter, it was a volcano. And
Yeah.
the energy was always, let me just play it safe and be quiet. And that meant I acquiesced. That meant I didn't speak
Mhm.
my truth. So when I get triggered, now at 46, I am realizing where I created the situation. I didn't speak
Mm.
up because I was hiding to be safe, and I can't do it
Mm.
anymore. And so the trigger now becomes, this thing is happening, and it's happening more in the moment, where yes, I can feel my emotions coming in and I'm starting to get upset, and immediately I can say, "Oh, why am I upset? What am I not okay with?" And now I'm learning how to speak up, because if I'm truly in
Yeah.
that neutral place, I'm going to have that awareness, and we're going to start to notice when I'm no longer neutral, right? That's the moment you're triggered. You can be triggered mentally, you start having these thoughts, you can be triggered emotionally, maybe even physically, because your body learned to try and punch you in the gut to get you to be like, "Hey, we're not okay with this." So all of a sudden you're having that symptom, you're aware of it. And for me, if I could just speak up and be like, "Look, hey, I get that you're interrupting right now. I'm not okay with that. I'm still talking." Right? If I'm neutral, I'm not shouting, I'm not snippy, I am
Mhm.
totally full of love. I can't control what the other person's going to do now. I can't control that they're not going to retort and be like, "Oh, well, look at you," and because this is the shit that happens. This is the constant triggering.
Yeah.
We're in this feedback loop, like a microphone and the big speaker, where it just keeps going, gets louder, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, I can't." That's energetically what happens when we start to feed off of each other. And if I can just get to the place, because that's all I'm here to work on, is me, and finding that neutrality, holding that neutrality, and infusing it with love and holding love, that I'm actually the mirror now for you to heal your own triggers. Now we can just have a
Yeah.
conversation. We can go back to being the 2-year-old that actually got to be curious and didn't get no,
Yeah.
right? Because imagine if I said, "Hey, I'm not okay with that." And they're like, "Nope, you don't get to tell me that." You know what I mean? Like, then I would be right back to that 2-year-old being told no. And I think that's energetically what I felt for so many years in my life, is
Yeah.
it immediately feels like you're this authority that's controlling me. Nobody wants to be controlled.
Mhm.
That's a huge part of how we get triggered.
Yeah. Beautiful. There's so much here. And the other piece is, when we heal, we're standing in our power. So when we release all of that, we're speaking up very consciously, very powerfully, not in a nagging way, not in a needy way. It's just who we are. And what if more people on the planet stood in that compassionate, powerful space? where we spoke with love and a very strong power, right? Not insulting, not any of that stuff that goes back and forth, but just who are, because when we're not doing that, everything by all this triggering, we punish ourselves. And we have to stop that. This battle that goes on in our heads that believes these beliefs and these stories, like it's time to let it all go. So thank you, ladies, again for another fabulous conversation. If you're watching this and you are involved in family groups, moms groups, wherever this information needs to be heard and seen, where we can even help just one person to release the battles, release the triggers, please share this with people you love, and please comment. Please share this with everybody, because again, our goal and our mission is just to help heal one more person of that 8 billion in the world. So let's really create a ripple effect. So have a fabulous day. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and have a great day.